Hello, my fellow Alaskans. How are we all doing out there this beautiful, beautiful afternoon here on this Monday? If you're like me, you may have been out on the roads already. They are extremely slick and dangerous, so be careful. Today we are here to listen to the Alaska Senate Education Committee. Looks like my title there somehow got screwed up on the screen. But we are supposed to be listening to the Department of Education here, and they are to tell us how much money they think they need, how much they have spent during the past year, and they expect us to all just kowtow down to them and what they believe should be coming into their pocketbooks, their coffers out there. And give me just 1 second. I want to finish this last little step here and get this up on the screen so we are actually reading the correct title on this post right now. And I would have swore I had them both changed over. And let me see here. Yes, it already exists. I know that. There we go. The title should on the top of the screen now should be correct. Uh-oh, what happened to it? Man, every time I turn around, they seem to be just kind of messing things up on this. It just never seems to fail. Oh, there's those guys there on the window there. They're not quite ready to start yet. So if you look at how much they've had for spending going on down there in Juneau, they have had nearly $3 billion to spend on their budgets this past year. And they could really care less how much of that money actually goes to the children out there. It all goes to the upper administration and those in charge of the running our schools. None of that money is actually making it to the student level, which is really, really, really sad. And we'd rather work hard out here today to make sure that we educate folks exactly how much money is being spent by our education department there down in Juneau. I mean, if you take in the state, the federal, the local funding, everything that they have going on down there, that money just seems to just flow right into their pockets and right out of ours. And where are they coming up with all this money from? Well, bottom line is they're using the money that we get for our PFDs, and that money is what is going into the pocketbooks of those down there in Juneau. Oh, they're starting. I will shut up and get them on screen here.
The 33rd Legislature in order. It is 3:30 p.m. on Monday, January 23rd. We are in the Belts Committee room at the Tom Stewart Building in the state capital of Juneau. Just a little housekeeping. I'm going to ask everyone to make sure their cell phones are muted. And when speaking, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Members present is Vice Chair Senator Gary Stevens, Senator Jesse Keel, Senator Jesse Bjorkman, Senator L.V. Gray Jackson, and myself, Senator Lukey Tobin. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum to conduct business. I would like to thank our Juneau LIO moderating for today's meeting, Sydney Truitt, and also Mary Gwen Kawakami, the Senate Records for recording today's meeting. All right, this is our first meeting, and I would like to ask my fellow committee members to introduce themselves and maybe share a few words. But before I do that, and to give you guys a few moments, let me begin. My name is Lukey Gail Tobin, and I have the privilege of representing Senate District I, which sits on the ancestral lands of the Dena'ina people. And it also includes the neighborhoods of downtown Anchorage, Fairview, South Addition, Government Hill, Jay Bear, and parts of Northeast Muldoon, North Star, and East Ridge. I'm very honored to be chairing this committee, and I really look forward to hearing from our education stakeholders today. Before we dive into the issues of school funding and teacher retention and student mental health and the implementation of a very dear piece of legislation of myself, the Alaska Reads Act, I really want to know how the communities are facing the challenging times. And so we have some folks here today that are going to give us an overview of the department over the next few weeks. We're going to hear from some excellent stakeholders in the fields of education support, of academia and curriculum building, in our student support services and our advocates. For many folks know that I was born and raised in Nome, Alaska. I had the opportunity to go to elementary school in Kodiak and Juneau before I ended up graduating high school from Nome Belts, which is very important to me today as we sit in this room together. I look forward to working with everyone here in this room and learning more about how we can be advocates for all of our educators and students here in Alaska. So, with that being said, I'm going to invite Senator Stevens to share a few words and a little bit of his background, and the rest of the committee members we can go through, and then we'll invite the department up for their presentation.
Well, thank you, Lucy. This is very nice. I appreciate that. This is interesting about this committee. When I first was elected in the year 2000, I served on a special committee in education in the House, and very quickly it became apparent to me that education was getting this short shrift because we were a part in the Senate and also in the House, a standing committee which was Health, Education, and Social Services. So I wrote a bill, and the bill passed, creating this committee. So we are here because of that bill. I'm a retired professor at the University of Alaska, History and Humanities, and this is my 23rd year, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Senator Keel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to be here with the Senate Education Committee today. My district, Senate District B, is here in the capital city. Thank you all for being here. It's an honor to host the legislature in Alaska's capital. It's not a very big district here in Alaska, just about the size of Massachusetts. But it does include the city and borough of Juneau, Gustavus, Haines, Cluckwan, Skagway. That's 4 school districts, 3 municipal, 1 REAA, one's a single site, one's one of the big 5. So there's a lot of diversity in the public education arena sphere here in my district. Of course, the headquarters of the University of Alaska Southeast is here in the capital city. I'm a product of some of Alaska's public schools. Graduated from Stellar Secondary in Anchorage, an alternative public school. I have a daughter who graduated from a homeschool public schools homeschool support program here in the capital city. Another who graduated from one of the 2 high schools. Some time ago, I actually staffed the State Board of Education and Early Development. What's 23 years among friends? And when you put that together, I know just enough about education to be dangerous. But it's vitally important, and so I look forward to the work of the committee. Thanks for letting us introduce ourselves this afternoon.
Thank you, Senator Keel. Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Senator Elvie Gray Jackson, and I represent District G in Anchorage, Midtown, Spenard, and Campbell Park. Well, actually Campbell area, because there's a couple of different ones. But anyway, I've been involved in public service in one form or another for, 38 years. I was staff to the Assembly. I served on the Anchorage Assembly for 9 years. And with that said, I've always been a really big advocate for our children, for public education, for doing the right thing for our children, because they're our investment in communities and they're our future. And I'm honored to be a part of this committee for the first time since I've been a senator. And I look forward to, in the end, doing the right thing for our kids. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Bjorkman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jesse Bjorkman. I am from Nikiski, where I have been a high school history and government teacher for 14 years. And I love teaching. I love education, and it's not only my trade, but the passion of my life. Part of the district that I represent encompasses most of the northern Kenai Peninsula, including the communities of Nikiski, Kenai, Soldotna, Sterling, the communities of Funny River, Hope, Cooper Landing, Moose Pass, all the way out to Bear Creek and just up to the city limits of Seward. So that means not the entirety of one school district, but a lot of the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District is incorporated within mine. So I hope my involvement in this legislature and on this committee reduces some of the cringe factor that many of the legislators around our state have when they hear politicians discussing education policy. And certainly my interest is education policy that works for our students and that enables our educators to deliver an excellent education to every student every day. We can't make it perfect, but we can do what we can do to make it close so that our education outcomes improve and that our students have maximum opportunity in their communities to go out and get a good education that provides them with opportunities to win at life. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. And I want to thank everyone here. This is a breathtaking array of experience, of passion, of background from our founder into our newest members. It's going to be a very exciting year, I suspect. On our agenda today is to hear a presentation from the Alaska Department of Education and Early Development. Copies of the presentation are available on the committee table and available here in this room. It's also been posted on Basis for those of you online. Joining us today from the department is Acting Commissioner Heidi Teschner and Deputy Commissioner Lacey Sanders. I'd like to invite you here to the table. Thank you again for joining us. Please remember to identify yourselves for the record and begin your presentation when you are ready.
Good afternoon. For the record, I am Heidi Teschner. I am the Acting Commissioner for the Department of Education and Early Development, and it is a pleasure to be in front of you this afternoon. With me, as Chair Tobin said, I have Lacey Sanders, our Deputy Commissioner, and on the line, I should have our Director of Innovation and Education Excellence, Susan McKenzie, who will be available for questions that I cannot answer, and our Director of Tribal Affairs, Joel Isaac, should be on the phone as well. And then also in the room with us, I have our School Finance Manager, Elwyn Blackwell, and Laurel Shoup, our Legislative Liaison, as well as Sabrina Javier, our Administrative Services Director. So these are folks that you might become well acquainted with this session. So I will just get started. Our mission, vision, and purpose is shown on slide 2. Our mission is an excellent education for every student every day. Our vision comes directly out of Alaska Statute 14.03.015. And our purpose, we exist to provide information, resources, and leadership to support our mission of an excellent education for every student every day. This afternoon, I'm just going to give you a high-level overview of some of the work that the department's doing around Alaska's Education Challenge, and then give you an overview of the Department of Education Early Development and how we're structured. Walk you through, at a very high level, the public school funding formula, which is also known as the foundation formula. Point you to some resources on our website for district budget and actual reporting, and then make sure you guys are aware and share for the committee and members of the public our COVID funding dashboard. And Deputy Commissioner Sanders and I are going to bounce back and forth, so we'll make sure to say our name for the record since we're both two female voices. So Alaska's Education Challenge. Most of you might be aware, but for new folks, so about 5 years ago, a number of stakeholders, parents, students, educators, policymakers, tribal leaders, and partners came together and created a shared vision for improving Alaska's public education system, and that resulted in the Alaska's Education Challenge. There are 5 shared priorities as shown on slide 5, which I'll talk to each of them on the slides forthcoming. But all of these shared five priorities guide our daily work. And so for a day-to-day basis, we make sure we're addressing one of these 5 priorities. Priority number 1 is that all students will read at grade level by the end of 3rd grade. So this first priority, we obviously have the Alaska Reads Act. That passed last May, and the department has been diligently working to develop the regulations and supports to help districts implement that. That does take effect July 1, 2023, so we're still in the not quite to the implementation date, but soon. Our regulations, and I know we'll be providing the committee with a deeper dive into the Alaska Reads Act and what we've been doing in our regulations in the forthcoming weeks. But our State Board of Education will see the first round of regulations related to the Reads Act on Wednesday, the January 25th at their meeting, and then that will go out for a formal public comment period. So we've already sought a lot of stakeholder input and taken that into consideration, and looking forward to more public input on that process. We also have I just want to share that Alaska Reads Act website, that provides some one-pagers on each of the 4 programs that were created in Alaska Reads Act, as well as we've started just 2 weeks ago weekly webinars to break down the implementation of Alaska Reads Act into bearable chunks for educators to really help them. We want to make this helpful to districts because we know it's a heavy lift. The next area for priority number 1, we have the Alaska Strategic Reading Plan. And this includes, this was developed last April, May. Director Susan McKenzie was the brainchild behind this strategic plan. But it includes 6 buckets. There's professional development, evidence-based materials, early learning, frameworks for success. There's science of reading, resources, data, and communications, and then there's teacher preparation. The strategic plan goes beyond a Reads Act. Reads Act is embedded within these 6 strategic buckets, as we're referring to them, but it's more than just a Reads Act. So we've been working on this even before the Reads Act passed. The other thing that we're doing around reading is the Alaska Reading Playbook. This was developed about a year ago, and it's a tool used by many educators across the state for improving reading instruction. It's meant to be like an online tool, using it on the web-based because it's interactive, although there's print options are available. And the purpose is just to provide clear step-by-step examples of evidence-based instructional practices. It was written by Alaskans for Alaskans. So that's the first priority. Our priority number 2 is to increase career and technical and culturally relevant education to meet student and workforce needs. Here we're doing Alaska Career and Technical Education, or CTE, career camps. This is a formation of student career and skill camps that we partner with Alaska Industries to immerse students in industry-based career exploration and technical skills base. So we really want, there's a variety of districts, I don't know them off the top of my head, that we are working with across the state, but the purpose really is to broaden a student's perspective for different careers that they might be interested in. The next we've hired a statewide coding and computer science career coordinator. This position is working on a computer science state plan for the state of Alaska, which we do not have, so we're kind of excited for this to come to fruition. It should be by June, we should have a state plan, at least a draft of it. That is our target goal. In addition, in September, we secured a license with Microsoft for a Minecraft Education Edition, and this is available at no cost to districts. So it helps teachers. There's a professional development available for teachers that allows them to help teach students how to code. So, and super excited. We have a number of districts that are participating in this. And again, like I said, it's at no cost to districts. And finally, we're looking at increasing our cultural lens applied to all of our initiatives. Our main focus in this area right now is obviously addressing what's been included in the Alaska Reads Act, but we're trying to take all of a cultural look at over all of our initiatives. Priority number 3 is to close the achievement gap by ensuring equitable educational rigor and resources. So here, the first area I want to highlight is our school recognition and support work. We're in about the 3rd year of this work. We are working to revamp our school improvement processes for different schools that fall into the category of needing improvement. Here we have a tool, the Alaska Empowerment Playbook, which is a guide for superintendents, principals, staff, and communities on how to engage in school continuous improvements in the school continuous improvement cycle while recognizing the unique assets and challenges of communities in their schools. So that, again, is an interactive playbook and meant to be online, but that is available resource that we have. Next, I want to highlight our Alaska System of Academic Readiness, the AK STAR assessment, which is designed to streamline the testing experience for grades 3 through 9 in the areas of English language arts and math. This balanced approach connects our fall and winter map growth interim assessments and the Alaska Spring Summative Assessment to provide a comprehensive assessment system that improves efficiency and cohesion and drives student outcomes by prioritizing teaching and learning. We are providing assessment literacy toolkits to districts to help message the importance of assessments and to help make data-informed decision around student outcomes. And the last on priority number 3, we have SIPS, which is Stackable Instructionally Embedded Portable Science, which is a project we're working on with a small number of states across the nation. And we're in the beginning stages of this project, but the goal is to create a bank of instructionally embedded science assessment tasks, build state and local educators' capacity, and engage educators, students, and parents. Essentially, we're trying to increase our resources in the area of science for districts, and this is will be free of charge for districts to use. Our 4th priority, prepare, attract, and retain effective education professionals. Here, the first item we have is the Alaska Teacher Recruitment and Retention. They're also known as TRR. This started in 2020 with a governor's task force, and we are that was phase 1. Then phase 2, there was a publication of a TRR action plan that was complete with a TRR survey results and some appendices. And we are currently in our 3rd phase, our implementation phase. There are currently 4 subcommittees that are working on recommendations for implementation, and there's an organizational health, there's a recruitment task force, a retirement working group, and alternative certification team. So soon, within the coming months, we should have those final report and recommendations from these working groups. So that, and I know you will also hear another presentation in the coming weeks to get deeper dive into that topic. We are also providing a number of professional development opportunities for districts. Last April, we did our first Science of Reading Symposium to a basically full registration. We are doing our 2nd Science of Reading Symposium at the end of April, the 28th through the 30th. Registration has already been maxed out of 1,000 people, so we have a wait list going, so people are really eager for this professional development. And then we're also doing other areas of professional development, trying to make it available free of charge to districts to help address the READS Act, Alaska READS Act, as well as in the areas of math, because it's not just reading, we need to address other areas as well. So we have professional development happening. And the last area I want to highlight is the Educator Application and Certification Hub of Alaska, the Teach AK. We're taking our teacher certification process from basically a paper pencil process to an online system. So that's super exciting to move that digitally. The 5th and final priority is to improve the safety and well-being of students through school partnerships and families, communities, and supports. So first, we have our tribal education compacting work with the passage of Senate Bill 34 last spring. We and the State Board of Education are starting the process to identify the 5 tribes that will be working with the board and the department to help through the negotiation process of what tribal education compacting could look like in Alaska. That at the board's state March meeting, they're going to finalize who those 5 tribes are, and in April we'll start that negotiation process. And by next January, a report will be provided to the legislature in accordance with Senate Bill 34 that with potential proposed legislation of what tribal compacting could look like. So to continue those conversations with the legislature. So that is moving forward, a lot of good work there. Another project the department is working on is the Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, also known as PBIS. This is a framework and initiative the department is engaging with several districts to provide school-wide or district-wide frameworks for promoting positive behaviors and essentially working on the school climate and culture within districts and schools. And the final area I wanted to point the committee to is our e-learning programs and courses. We currently have about 79 courses offered through the e-learning platform. There's areas of courses in child nutrition, special education, health and safety, suicide prevention, trauma-engaged schools, and it continues to grow. So more courses are being added. And we currently have 34,500 users across the state. And that is both, that includes teachers, superintendents, counselors, special education aides, librarians, school nurses, administrative staff, kitchen staff, parents, and volunteers. So it is widely used. And some of the courses that are in here help teachers meet those requirements that they need to keep their certification up. So very well used system. And like I said, it does continue to grow. And that is a high level of kind of the work that the department's doing with Alaska Education Challenge. We're doing a whole lot more, but that's just we wanted to highlight for you today. Are there any questions on this section before we go to the next one?
Senator Stevens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to pay tribute to Dr. Michael Johnson, who was the commissioner, who was truly a visionary leader. And when we ended our session, he was still commissioner, and I talked to him on a regular basis from committee issues and education issues. He was the one responsible, I believe, for the Alaska Education Challenge several years ago. Just truly a remarkable man. I'm sure he's a visionary leader wherever he is now, but just a remarkable person. He gave a speech, a talk on a bill on civics education that was just amazing from an educator, from a lifelong educator, how important that speech was. We weren't able to pass the bill, but we'll try again. But I don't know what's happened to him. We lose contact with people when they leave the department. But anyway, I just think we need to pay tribute to the person who was so uniquely responsible for the progress we've made the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My only comments are around the Science of Reading Symposium. I had the opportunity to talk with an educator from Valdez this weekend, and the reviews were just outstanding. I look forward to participating in this cycle.
Great. Thank you. Actually, we'll now pass the presentation over to Deputy Commissioner Sanders.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, my name is Lacey Sanders. I am the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Education and Early Development. I am going to walk through the framework and structure of organization of the Department of Education and Early Development. I realize there are veterans on this committee that are very familiar with this, so apologies if this is redundant for you, but I'm hoping that we can lay the framework or the groundwork for moving forward as we look at policy changes for the state of Alaska. So beginning on slide 12, we've provided an organizational chart outlining the structure of the department. The Commissioner of the Department of Education reports to the State Board of Education and Early Development. The State Board is appointed by the Governor and consists of a 9-member board, including a military advisor and a student advisor. The Commissioner provides leadership and policy direction to the department, and we have 5 what we call pre-K through grade 12 core divisions within the department. They are the Division of Education, Innovation and Education Excellence, the Division of Finance and Support Services, Division of Admin Services, the Mount Edgecombe High School, and the Division of Libraries, Archives, and Museums. And I'll walk through each one of these and the services that they provide on the following slides. We also have 3 commissions and corporations that fall under the department administratively. We have the Alaska State Council on the Arts, the Professional Teaching Practices Commission, and the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education. And on the screen, we've provided the executive directors or directors for each one of those divisions for your reference, and I'm sure you will be hearing more from them throughout the session. Year 2023, we have a total of 290 total positions within the department.
Bear with me here, folks. Their feed has completely crashed. I am showing full-blown connection with their website, so there's no reason why I should be having any problems. This is definitely on them. Bear with it. I am forcing it to relook at everything here and get it back up and running again. Alright, looks like I may have gotten it back.
Okay, moving on to slide 14, we continue with our libraries, archives, and museums, and this division serves the state by providing resources and preserving Alaska's history. Many of you are
You guys
familiar
can hear
with
me
the
pretty good.
Andrew P. Kashivaroff building that is located here in Juneau. If you have not visited, I highly encourage you to visit. We also have the Sheldon Jackson Museum and the Stratton Library in Sitka, Alaska. The Mount Edgecombe High School is our statewide public boarding school, and it is also located in Sitka, Alaska. We serve approximately 400 students from 111 villages throughout the state of Alaska. Next is the Professional Teaching Practices Commission, which works to enhance professional performance of all educators so that the public's right to the best education possible for all Alaska's students is adequately protected. Our director, Melody Mann, is located in Anchorage, but as a wealth of resource of knowledge if there are any questions related to this area. The Alaska State Council on the Arts provides grants to Alaskans to invest in arts education and enable Alaskan citizens and students to participate in the arts or receive an arts education. Executive Director Andrea Noble leads this area and is also a wealth of information. Some of you may be familiar if you're trying to decorate your offices with the art bank that falls under her area as well. Lastly, we have the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education. They promote access to education and career training beyond high school. This includes assistance with the FAFSA, or the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, issuing student loans, awarding Alaska's performance scholarships, and Alaska's education grants. The WWAMI program also is funded through this division as well. As I mentioned, we do have 290 total positions within the department. The slide before you on slide 15 was just intended to provide a snapshot of how we are broken down. We are a small but mighty group supporting Alaska's education mission. And as you can see, once you've set aside the corporations and the more specific divisions, such as Mount Edgecombe High School and the libraries, archives, and museums, there are 110 positions remaining that support 54 school districts and students in Alaska, which is saying a lot. All right, so if any point you have a question or you're looking for specific information, you're trying to address a constituent's question, please feel free to reach out to myself or our legislative liaison, Laurel Shoup. She's also in the audience today, and we can help direct you to where we might be able to answer your question. And with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Teschner.
Okay, are you ready for the fun part? Again, for the record, Heidi Teschner, our foundation funding formula. So the legislature provided a formula and statute for funding state or school operational costs. The school funding formula is statutorily defined calculation utilized to determine the amount of state aid paid annually to each individual school district. The formula is intended to achieve an equitable distribution of aid for education throughout the state. The current formula was adopted in 1998 under Senate Bill 36, and it was implemented in 1999. So we've been running the same formula since 1999. The formula has undergone several amendments throughout that process. The formula incorporates factors intended to recognize and adjust Individual district funding for the financial consequences of variables in school size, the geographic cost differences, special needs, vocational education, and intensive needs student populations. There's also takes into consideration correspondence programs, federal aid, and the ability of communities to provide local contributions. A school district is only eligible for foundation funding as it's calculated under the formula and set out in Alaska Statute 1417-410. The first step in determining state aid for a district is determining the average daily membership, or the ADM, for each school. For your reference on this slide, I've provided links to our school finance website. From here, there's a number of things you can drill down to: our foundation formula reports, a foundation history, the base student allocation history, which there's a slide. There's also state aid funding history, a number of other things. And we also have our federal impact aid disparity tests and memorandums on our website. In addition, the second link is a link to a 7-page document titled the Public School Funding Program Overview. It walks you through the funding formula in more detail than what I'm going to do today. So it's a good resource if you want to know a deeper dive. And we're happy to meet with anybody who wants to talk more deeply about the funding formula. Then we'll get into today.
Senator Stevens.
That formula is so complex. And I've had it explained to me several times, and 2 days later, I've forgotten. But so I guess my question of you is, so we've amended it. We passed it in 98, amended it, I think I was here when that was amended. Are you comfortable, or is the board comfortable with the formula? Are there changes that the board feels, or you feel, or the administration feels need to happen? Are we okay with the formula we now have?
Through the chair, Senator Stevens, I would say overall we're comfortable with the formula that we have. We do recognize that the base student allocation has not kept up with inflation, and we also realize and recognize that the district cost factors were created many years ago, 10 plus years ago, and so those are probably outdated as well. And so there's been conversations of whether or not to update the cost factors and go through that process. That was a multi-year implementation process, implemented over 5 years, once we finally came with the agreement of the final ones that are set out in statute. So, but overall, the rest of the formula, I would say we're very comfortable with.
Thank you.
Please pray.
So on slide 18, just wanted to discuss the annual count period. So state aid to school districts is calculated annually based on their student enrollments. The formula uses the term average daily membership, or ADM, as you'll hear me refer, which is the defined term for student count data, and is the number of enrolled students during the 20-day school count period, which ends the fourth Friday of October every year. We've provided on the slide, just for reference, what the current school year, the 2022-2023 count period, it was from October 3rd to the 28th of October. And then reports are due by statute within 2 weeks after the end of the count period. So districts had to report on their student counts by November 11th of 2022. Statute really sets out what the student count, really sets out the count period, and that is really the starting point of the foundation formula. Just wanted to quickly, or not so quickly, provide just a history of the hold harmless provision. So this was enacted in 2008 under House Bill 273. It is intended for those school districts that are experiencing a reduction in their brick and mortar average daily membership after it's been adjusted for school size in the foundation formula. Eligibility is determined after the district's adjusted for school size. Average daily membership is calculated, and it's totaled up for all districts. It's not just a 5% reduction in one district or one school within a district. It's all schools included in the formula, in the calculation. The sum total of a district's adjusted for school size average daily membership is compared to the prior fiscal year's total adjusted for school size average daily membership to determine if there's a decrease of 5% or more. And if that answer is yes, then the prior fiscal year is locked in as a base year, and that's for the next 3 years. The intended results of the hold harmless is that for the first year, 75% in the first year, that they basically receive 75% of the basic need it's restored in that first year. So they can slowly adjust, and then year 2 it's 50%, and then by the third and final year it's 25%. It's intended to be a slow step down to help districts adjust to a smaller budget based on the reduction in their student count. Any questions? It's a lot, I know. The next 2 slides provide, just kind of walk through each of the steps of the formula. And we break it out into 2 slides because it's really what we determine to get to district adjusted ADM. And then the next slide really talks about who pays. So starting out, so we have the average daily membership. And then we adjust that for school size, taking into account hold harmless. And then that is then increased by factors within the school size table. So that determines who, basically, the school size table, depending on the size of your school, depends on what kind of adjustment you get. So there's a table set out in statute that determines that. Once we have our school size amount figured out, we multiply, we then multiply that by our district cost differentials, our district cost factors. Then we multiply in our special needs factor, then our vocational education factor, and then our special education intensive counts, that is a head count, and they get a times 13 adjustment, that gets added in, and then we have our correspondence average daily membership added in at the end at 90%. So all of these, again, set out in statute, come up to the calculation of a district adjusted average daily membership. And then from there, we multiply that number by our base student allocation. For this year, it is currently 5,930, and it will go up to 5,960 July 1 of 2023, so for fiscal year 24. But once we have that multiplied by the district adjusted ADM multiplied by the base student allocation, we get our basic need. Basic need is the amount that is districts should be able to run their district with this amount of money based on how the formula is written. We then determine basically from here who pays. City and borough school districts have a required local contribution, so that gets reduced from from basic need. If it's a city and borough district. Districts that have received impact aid, deductible impact aid, is then reduced. And that final result is our state aid. So this is what the state pays. There's also a small quality schools grant, which is the district adjusted average daily membership multiplied by $16. So that gets added on the end for our total state entitlement, or state aid, which is what the state pays to districts. Make sure I didn't miss anything. The next slide, I just provide a history since 1999 under this formula of what the base student allocation has been. So it has increased 12 times since fiscal year 99, and is expected to increase a 13th time in fiscal year 2024. The chart also provides you with if there was any additional outside funding formula that was appropriated to districts, what that was. And I know it's kind of small font. It's a lot of years to shove on one page. So there have been 11 times that outside funding formula, outside the foundation formula, funding has been appropriated to districts. That's usually distributed based on district adjusted average daily membership. And the most recent year, obviously in our current fiscal year 23, there's $57 million that was appropriated for outside the funding formula.
Madam Chair.
Senator Keel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could make one of those persnickety requests, starting the y-axis at 3,000 makes it look like the BSA is more than doubled, and we all know it hasn't. If we could start the y-axis at 0, that would be helpful, I think, just giving perspective.
That we can do. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Senator Bjorkman.
Another way I think, to clarify this pencil graph, which I think is more informational about these numbers and how they affect school districts, is including inflation-adjusted numbers on a per capita basis, so that you really get more of an idea of the impact of what these numbers mean in real dollars and as far as purchasing power that